before. I lost that love before. I lost that love before.
All right. We are live on Twitch, and we're also going to be coming to YouTube as well in the first of what is the hopefully a monthly Cube interview stream on my Twitch channel, and that will be going to the Cube Heads YouTube as well for the inaugural episode. I have two friends with me here that I'm going to be hanging out with in very short timing, which is fantastic. Up top, we have Greg Dinrova Horror, founder of the Vertex Cube events, as well as the Steel City Cube in Pittsburgh last year, and a staple at every Cube event that I've ever been to. We run into each other a lot at Cube drafts.
I am at a lot of them, yeah.
Yeah. And then down below, over there, we have Juan, who is a good friend from Philly, the localization expert for the Vertex Cube in Philadelphia, and a master chef extraordinaire, in my opinion. I don't know if you would, I think you're a fantastic cook. I had your food before I knew you.
Thanks, Steve.
So,
Yeah. You came to Neighborhood Ramen, I remember. Yeah.
I didn't.
Rest in peace.
I know that place was so good. Shout out to Parker. And that vegetarian broth you guys make was fire, which is like, that's key.
Yeah.
So I brought my two buddies on here because of the Vertex event. Vertex Cube is happening next weekend, and that is the 25th and 26th. It's going to be at Red Caps Corner in West Philadelphia, which is my college, LGS. I've been friends with the owners for many years, and I love the store and all of its evolution. So I was so happy when I found out that you guys chose Red Caps to host.
Yeah. Shout out to Ben, by the way, for facilitating that.
Yeah.
Ben is the man. He is the angry Red
Yeah,
Cap.
he's been really great to us.
Yeah, Ben's a fantastic guy, and he's just that store has been has had a piece of my heart for many years since I left the Drexel Magic Club and went to go to Red Caps to buy Magic packs for the first time in 10 years. So it will always be close to my heart. Tell me about Vertex a little bit. Like, I know, Greg, you hosted the Steel City Cube in Pittsburgh last year. I was there. It was fantastic. It was a really fun event.
Thank you.
So, what was the idea with bringing it to Philadelphia? And, I guess we'll start there.
Well, basically, it was just Juan was over there at the event and said, this was awesome. I'd love to run something like this in Philly. And I said, sure, let's do it. So we're kind of just porting over the same event idea from Steel City Cube.
Mm-hmm.
We decided it would be confusing if we continued calling it that and ran it in Philadelphia. So that kind of gave birth to the Vertex name here. And super excited to just keep running the same kind of thing in a new city.
Awesome. Well, Juan, I thank you for petitioning him to bring.
Well, I mean, Philly has already a great Cube community. And a lot of us went over to Pittsburgh. It felt super to ask Greg let's do it over here. I wanted to do one, and he was like, I want to start moving. I want to do more in different cities. So those ideas just kind of meshed together in a perfect way.
Yeah, that's awesome. So the event is over 2 days, right?
Exact same structure as Steel City Cube. We're going to run 3 drafts day 1, 3 drafts day 2. So if anyone didn't attend the first event, we are basically doing 4 Swiss drafts that'll feed into the top 8. And then the last drafts are kind of open play, but we still pair them with Hedron Network, which is a little bit different from what you'll see at something like CubeCon, which I think really helps give everybody more opportunities to draft the cubes that they're excited to draft, instead of just the the free play area at KubeCon has its perks for sure. It's easier to kind of get a group together yourself and stuff. But for those players that feel like they missed out on something in the main event and they want to have that same sort of equitable pairing system that Hedron Network does provide us, we do that for the last two drafts after the main event is over.
That's awesome. That's yeah. I mean, I love Hedron Network. It's like been such a blessing to the community. And
We can't live without it, that's for sure.
we are a bit dependent on it. That is true. So Juan, like for people that are coming to the event, or like maybe people from outside the city that are coming in for the first time, like Red Caps, I think is in a great area. Like, what do you think is like? Well, we cube in West Philadelphia. Like, what do you think is special about the neighborhood that Red Caps is in, and like, you know, what yeah, I mean, what can people expect other than magic?
Well, I mean, Philadelphia's got it's a city that's got something for everybody. So if you've never been, like, I mean, I grew up in LA, and like I have to say, like Philadelphia is just a way better city in my opinion. And West Philly is like a hub for like really really great like African and Ethiopian food, really incredible sandwiches, really like great places to drink as well. Like you know, I posted in the Discord, you know, about some place that I really really enjoy in the area. Like Local 44 is just like a great watering hole for anyone that lives in West. It's quieter than like other parts of the city. It's like it's not as hip, I would say, as like some place like Fishtown is right now up in North or anything like that. But I really I've lived in West my whole life, my whole time living out here in Philly, and it's quiet, but there's something for everybody. You know, there's beautiful parks. There's a little bit of everything for everybody. So, I mean, if you're coming to the event and you need a place to go hang out, please reach out to me. I'll tell you where to go. Just tell me what you want, and we'll make it happen.
You could go to the pizza shop where magic was tested.
Yes. Yeah, I learned about that when I lived across the street from it. I lived on 43rd and Pine, across from Colonial Pizza, and I watched a documentary, and the documentary was like, yeah, Richard Garfield and his friends tested while he was doing his graduate studies at the University of Pennsylvania at Colonial Pizza, and I was like, it's right there.
Yeah, that's the pizza shop. Yeah, no, I mean, I spent 9 of the 12 years I lived in Philly, I lived on 43rd and Spruce. So I was right there.
Great area.
Yeah. No,
really, really great area. I used to have an old chef who called West Philly Street because we have like all these like trees and beautiful row homes. Like there's no trees in South Philly. Like it's it's just a different vibe out here.
There's just parking in the middle of the street. There's just parking.
Yeah, there's just parking in the middle of the street. It's anarchic. Up here we have people like walking their cats. Like it's a different.
It's definitely a different vibe.
Yeah, it's got more like Portland vibes. It's cool though. I really enjoy West.
Yeah.
But yeah. I hope people really enjoy it. It's a great area.
Yeah, I think it'll be a blast, and hopefully it's not too chilly out. Well, although you know, for anybody coming from colder areas, like it's not that cold. But if you're coming from a warm area, it's kind of cold. It's kind
of. I have to say, for anybody who's coming from out of town, we have a lot of cubes listed as like locals, and some that are coming in from, you know, around different parts of the country, from people who are at the event. I highly recommend trying a lot of the local cubes. Like, we have a really great scene here. And opposite for people who are filling to the event, like the ones that are coming, like, the country, people who are coming from everywhere. There's so many different types of cubes we have in the event. Like, I'm really, really happy cubes that we picked, and the cubes that Greg picked as well. And, like, it was really fun, just the process of, like, what do we put in? Like, what's you know, we put up our suggestions, and they all seem pretty sweet. Like we had like certain slots we wanted to fill. Yeah, really really psyched for these cubes.
That's fantastic. Is the cubes for the event available anywhere, or is it just in the Hedron network once you sign up?
So you can see them in the Discord server, which you mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm.
You can find a link to that either on Vertex's socials or at phillymtgcube.com. And you can just hop in that server, and we've got a forum of all the cubes sort of set up in there.
Okay, fantastic. So other than the 2 cubes that we're going to talk about in the event that you guys designed. What are some of the other favorites? Give me like one or two that you're excited for in the event that aren't your own.
Sure. Do you want to go first, Juan? I can actually hear
You want
give
to
me a
take this
second.
one first, Greg?
I'm gonna pull up a list really quick,
We had
so
a
that
little
everyone
audio.
can see them.
We had a little audio mash.
Yeah, you're all good. Give me 1 second here. I'm gonna
Alright.
swap over.
Yeah.
Can you see that? Is that good?
Yeah.
I've got the list here of. This is what Hedron Network looks like if you've never used it before, and we've got a page here where it'll show you all the cubes in the event. So, like we mentioned earlier, there's a really good swath of local Philly cubes here, which is super important to me, at least as
Shout out
an
to the
event
Bong
organizer.
Cube. Bong Cube's
Yeah.
fantastic.
That's one of the local Philly ones here. If you want to talk about it at all, go for it. I've actually never drafted it before, so.
Yeah. Steve just drafted it like last Saturday, right?
Yeah, no, it's fun. There's a local player, Juniper, who's the cube designer, and it's I would say it's a vintage power level without power, I guess. There's sort of a Jack in the Mox and a Soul Ring, I think, are like the only things close enough. There's one conspiracy as well, which is very strong. But it's just fun. It's a fun legacy plus vintage environment, and it's fast paced, well designed. There's enough uniqueness in there that separates it from vintage cubes, I think, or other high power level cubes that like are Juniper's touch that made it really fun to play, and it's different from just like any vintage cube you'd grind away. So, I think I very much enjoyed the Bong Cube, and I'll be putting it on my list. So.
Yeah. Last time I drafted it, I put Fourth Aerolingus and Channel in the same deck, and I did it once, and I won the game. So fuck it. It was great. It was not a good deck. I went 1 and 2, I think, but I had a great time.
Channel Fireball for the modern age.
There you go.
Yeah, for the modern age, for 4 mana.
All right, Greg, can you close your screen share in Discord because I have the cubes up?
Oh yeah, sure.
Awesome. And I think we'll get your video back. Boom, boom, like a charm. All right, now the chat is seeing a list of stream. Thank you, Elf Lawyer, for helping me out here and telling me that the website has the stuff. So, all right, Greg, which one of these am I clicking into?
Let me see what you're looking at here. You've got the list of all the cubes in the event here.
Yep.
Okay.
The website has the one. It has all the cube.
Oh, okay.
lists
Hang
too,
on.
so.
I think we're looking at the Philly cube list. So this is probably missing the cubes that aren't local to Philadelphia.
Fair enough.
So let me swap back over here real quick, and I'll pull up this list one more time,
Fantastic.
just so that we can take a look at all of them. There are a bunch of. I definitely recommend looking through that list over there. That's the local player group there kind of maintains that list, and it's really cool that you can just kind of go ahead and see all of the different things that they have on tap over there.
Yeah.
But there are some non-local cubes that are missing from that list, as well as some local cubes that aren't in the event. So
Once you tell me the cube, I'll bring it up on Cube Cobra on mine.
I can actually click right through here. There's another thing that we can do here on Hedron Network, which is really neat. If I click on one of these links, it'll pull the list right up for us, which is pretty cool.
Oh, all right.
So I'm gonna leave the local cubes to Juan because I have drafted a pretty small minority of them.
So you went with the Baltimore cube instead?
This one is actually Lincoln's. He lives just outside of DC. He's in Northern Virginia.
Okay.
This is the Penrose cube, and the way that I discovered this cube is really funny, actually. CubeCon 2023, there was a bug in Hedron Network in one of the rounds, because the software, that was actually the first event the software had ever been used for. It was custom built for CubeCon 2023. And there was a bug in one of the rounds in the middle of the day where everyone just was paired completely randomly. And I happened to get paired into this cube. I had not ranked it. I had never heard of it. And I had a fantastic time with it and ended up not only befriending Lincoln through this cube, but also and have ended up inviting it to a whole bunch of cube events since then. So the conceit of this cube, it's a little bit lower powered. You'll see a lot of kind of uncommons and commons going on in here, although it's not actually rarity restricted. But the cube has no tokens and no counters in it. So nowadays we call that bar cube, although this cube predates that nomenclature by a little bit.
Fair enough.
It's inspired a lot by the graveyard synergies of the Torment and Judgment era of Magic. Since there's no extra game objects, moving stuff from zone to zone ends up being a good way to get card advantage because you can't like make a token or anything like that. So there's a bunch of flashback, there's a bunch of madness, all that kind of stuff. And as a result, the cube is also heavily skewed towards black. You can see here that there's 77 black cards compared to white being the smallest color at only 27. So I think that's also a super interesting design choice. You don't see a lot of cubes that are breaking color balance so drastically like this cube does. And I think this cube is really cool, and I really recommend giving it a try.
Awesome. Yeah. I've seen the Penrose Cube at events. I think I've done it once. I think I might have done it in Baltimore at something, so that's why I might have confused it. But
Yeah, I'm trying to think of when this cube would have been around there, because there hasn't the Salt Box is coming up. I don't know if it's featured or not, but that would be the first Baltimore Cube event in terms of large events.
yeah. It might have been at like a Magic something, SCG thing. I don't know. All right. Close your screen share, and then, Juan, let me know what you want to talk about.
Or why don't you crack open the Paradox Cube?
All right. Let me see here.
And let me know when you're ready with that.
The Paradox Cube. Do, 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 do. The Pauper Paradox Cube or the Modal Paradox Cube? Or neither of those?
Paradox Cube. It's on its list, but it's just it's a local cube by Holly.
All right.
By
Paradox
put
Cube.
the
Okay.
link in the-
Perfect.
yeah.
I got it.
Yeah, there you go. You see it?
Yep.
So it's in unpowered. It is a cube that is about casting spells from anywhere other than your hand. So from your graveyard, from exile, from well, mostly those, but a lot of other stuff. And then just like there's a lot of synergies, but also pretty powerful threats. It is kind of difficult sometimes.
Okay.
It's just but I've had sort of fun just together, just like lists of little guys like coming back from the graveyard all the time, or you can kind of do so many cool different things in this cube. Last time I did it, Ragavan was in. I think Ragavan is still in, yeah. So I mean, I just drafted Ragavan and a bunch of like aggressive red creatures.
It looks like that's possible. I mean,
Of time. Yeah, there's also like Kitchen Infinite shenanigans. Lots of like plot cards. I got killed by like, a Foretell aggro white green deck, which was like a blast the first time I played it. I highly recommend this cube. It's just like it makes you think about how to abuse cards in different ways rather than just casting them straight up from your hand. It's really awesome.
nice.
It makes you want to fill your graveyard with a bunch of crap. And,
I mean, I get that
take advantage.
Ragavan has dash and all, but like, come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
No.
That's a power outlier. That's a power.
Hey, he also lets you cast cards from exile. That's two different synergies.
Yeah.
There you
That's
go.
two different
yeah,
synergies.
I guess it's
Yeah.
it's undeniable. It's undeniable.
Yeah. It was really good, but there's so many cards in here that block it so well. There's so many like X3s that are just like so annoying for Ragavan to try to get past. It did very well, but it's it's still a power outlier for sure. But I still really enjoy this cube a lot. I'm probably not doing
Yeah.
it justice.
No,
But,
it's. I mean, no. I think it sounds great. It looks very interesting. I like the theme. I mean, that's like a cool. Like, yeah. All right. So both of these two gentlemen, other than helping with independent cube events, are also very fantastic cube designers, and they also have their own cubes in the event. So Greg, we'll start with your cube, which I've done many a time. I think this might actually be one of my most drafted cubes, like event cubes. I'm a huge fan of the companion cube. So, give us like a high level your table speech real quick, or an abridged version of table speech where no one's actually going to do the draft right away. But and
Sure.
then I'll ask you some questions. And if anybody in the chat has any questions about the cubes, feel free to throw them in. So go ahead. Greg.
Yeah. So this cube has a small rules change. You can take any card in your pool after the draft is over, and you can play it as a companion, as like using the original companion rules. So you can just cast it straight out of your sideboard. It doesn't have to be a creature. It doesn't have to even be a spell. You can companion a land in this environment as well. And that's pretty much it. Other than that, it's a totally normal cube. But I've been able to take advantage of this rules change to support a lot of constructed cards that are historically not very good in a singleton limited environment. One of my favorite examples is Amulet of Vigor, which is one of the strongest companions in the cube, despite the fact that you probably see that in most cubes and assume it doesn't do anything at all. If you have it on turn 1 every time, though, then all of your lands that would enter tapped just enter untapped totally for free. There are a ton of cards in the cube like that. Some other examples are like Ether Vial. There's too many to list, honestly, if you're just peeking through the list here.
Yeah.
Tons of cards that you probably aren't used to seeing in more traditional cubes, but can be deceptively powerful when you just have them in your opening hand every time.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things, I've had success with just a basic land as my companion so that I can run a deck with like 12 lands.
Yeah, 12 land aggro is a popular archetype. One of my favorite ways to build it is with Plaza of Heroes, which lets you basically just play any legendary creature you want, regardless of what color it is, and that's really exciting.
Oh yeah, that sounds like a blast. So how long have you been working on this cube?
I started building this cube probably about halfway through 2023, I want to say. In February of 2023, I was at MagicCon Philadelphia, and that's when I really started getting into the cube community and started feeling inspired to build something unique like this. I had just drafted the Cascade Cube as well as Ryan Sachs's Build-Around Cube, and both of those environments really inspired me to find some kind of interesting rules change to build around. So I would guess that I got started building this cube like March or April of 2023, give or take.
Awesome. And then like when you're in the iterations you've gone through, other than things that are just like broken that you had to cut, because I've done drafts of the cube when Wasteland was in the cube, and that was a thing that could be your companion.
Yeah.
But other than like just like it's just a power outlier, like what are you looking for when you're making cuts or adding things to the cube?
So there were some cards that I started off just knowing they would be way too good for the cube. Ragavan, Mother of Runes, those kinds of things. I've never tested either of those cards. I assume that they would be completely unacceptable in this environment. There have been some cards that have been definitely strong, but I like the way that the companion rule. So to clarify, you can change your companion from game to game. And so that sideboarding aspect really brings down the power level of super strong but narrow pieces, because you can always just board in something that's really strong against whatever that is. And that's actually the reason I did eventually have to cut Wasteland from the cube, was I was worried that it would shut down too many of the interesting land-based strategies like Plaza of Heroes, where if you built your whole deck around Plaza and then someone just brought in Wasteland, then all of a sudden you can't cast any of your spells anymore. And I thought that was kind of a bad play pattern. So that's why I ended up cutting that card. Another example of a card that I had to cut was Urza Saga, and that was because if you look at the artifact section here, you'll notice there's a lot of artifacts in this cube, and a lot of them are cheap, and a lot of them are fun to build around. And so you would have people building around Amulet or building around Codex Shredder or building around Currency Converter or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And all of those decks just wanted to companion Urza Saga.
Yeah.
Um, and that was really
Fair enough.
boring. Like, no matter what cool artifact thing you were doing, it was just better to companion Urza Saga, and we would have an Urza Saga deck every single draft. So I found that like it was really reducing the diversity of the companions, and so I ended up cutting that card.
So, from the chat, Elf Lawyer asks, what was something that through playtesting you might not have thought was too powerful initially, or maybe were a little hesitant about, but like ended up pulling like a wasteland kind of thing?
Yeah. So like I said, a lot of the power outliers can be kept in check with the correct suite of answers, even more so in this cube than normal. One thing that jumps to mind is Dark Depths. I found that card to be a little bit too narrow and a little bit close to a 2-card combo for my comfort. I try to avoid pretty much any 2-card combo in this environment because if you could just companion like Pestermite, then you would you'd only have to draw Splinter Twin and you just win the game. So I've tried to avoid 2-card combos in favor of 3-card combos. So you will find Persist and things like that where you need 3 different pieces to make it work, and those decks kind of fill the Splinter Twin slot, the Splinter Twin slot in this cube.
Yeah.
Because you get 1 piece for free, and then you still have to find 2 pieces. So it's similar to having to find those 2 pieces in a traditional cube. Dark Depths plus Thespian Stage was a little bit too close to being a 2-card combo.
Yeah.
And so I ended up, especially after Urza Saga came out, I ended up taking that whole package out because Thespian Stage without Urza Saga is also an extremely narrow synergy piece. I like the way that it plays with Saga, but without Saga, it was basically just for Dark Depths, so I ended up just cutting the whole package.
All right. We got an interesting question in chat. What is the most whimsical card in your cube? What is
The most whimsical card in the cube. I feel like that's so subjective that I can't possibly answer it for...
to you?
Yeah, yeah,
What inspires whimsy for you?
That's funny. I'm trying to think of like what card would I open in pack 3 that I would just train wreck my entire draft to do something dumb with.
I mean, there is a Samwise Gamgee in here. You know?
Yeah, that card is funny.
That's pretty whimsical. It's pretty.
Yeah, it's good in the Allure Index. It also goes infinite with the cat oven cat.
Yeah. Where's that?
This card is
stinker?
surprisingly powerful. It's also it goes crazy with Academy Manufactor as well. There's lots of infinites you can put together with this card.
Where's
Card is
what's
way better than it
Academy
looks.
Manufacturer? What color is that? I don't know that card.
Oh, it's an artifact creature. That's the one that if you make a clue or a food or a treasure, it makes all 3 of them instead. The one they used to play in the Asmo decks in Modern.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Game objects. Everybody loves game objects.
Yeah, it's right. Yeah, there it is.
Need more paper on the tables.
There you go.
Yeah, this card is really, really strong in this environment. You can time sieve with it. You can Samwise with it. Also, even just making a bunch of tokens with it is pretty strong, even if you're not doing anything completely broken.
Yeah.
But
I've had
sorry?
I was going to say the most success I've had in the cube has been with Stoneforge Mystic as my companion game 1, and then Plains.
Oh, that's actually a great example of a card that I needed to nerf on power level recently. So
no!
Stoneforge,
Is it gone?
Stoneforge is still here.
Okay.
Don't worry about that. I did end up having to cut Cauldron though. It was important for me for Stoneforge to be here because I do really like for there to be a bunch of iconic constructed archetypes.
Yeah.
So Stoneforge is a mainstay of the cube for sure. That's not going anywhere. But I found that Cauldron was so swingy, and there were also so many other good things to do with Stoneforge that I didn't need this extremely narrow payoff for just Stoneforge Mystic. It's still, you've got your Battle Skull, you've got your Cryptic Coat, there's a bunch of the reconfigure creatures, stuff like that. So there's plenty of strong things to do with Stoneforge Mystic, but Cauldron was pretty much just for that deck, and it was so swingy that I felt like it wasn't really worth the slot here.
we got a shout out in chat as someone who lost to Stoneforge Cauldron very easily when I drafted this cube. I'm happy to hear that you took it out.
Yeah, that's a tough one, especially for players that are seeing the cube for the first time at a large event like this, where in my local play group where we draft this cube somewhat frequently, there's there's an understanding that Stoneforge can be attacked on the axis of sideboarding removal in games 2 and 3, and then they just have this do nothing card in their hand that they tutor with Stoneforge Mystic. But a lot of players don't latch onto that angle of play their first time drafting the cube.
Yeah.
And so I've found that when you look at events like CubeCon or you look at events like Steel City Cube, those really proactive decks that are weak to a specific type of interaction tend to overperform because players that are less familiar with the cube don't know what to do against them as well.
Fair enough. Well, thank you for walking us through the companion cube. Other than the fact that you have a very beautiful custom deck box for it, is there anything else you want to tell us about it?
No, I mean, I could talk about this cube for hours. I've done it at CubeCon. I've done it at Steel City. So if you want to hear more about it, DM me or hunt me down at the event or something because I have a lot to say about it. But this is probably not the appropriate venue for me to talk for an additional 2 hours about all the things I have to say.
Maybe I'll bring you back and we'll just go to the deep end with this cube. We'll hash it out. We're going to move over to Juan's cube now, which I am going to let you do the full name so that I don't mess it up, even though I have it in front of me.
Well, if you just want to refer to it, you could just call it Twilight, but it's the cube version of the Twilight Saga New Moon soundtrack. I don't know. It's sort of it calls back to like old Fall Out Boy songs that are just way too long.
Nice.
Just like yeah, like that's kind of the vibe I'm going for. So like you know, late aughts, like nostalgia, like back when, you know, Return to Ravnica was just coming out, or Innistrad was coming out, you know, in like 2011 or 2012, whenever that came out.
Yeah.
Like I was like just out of, like I was in high school in 2009, and I listened to that soundtrack a lot. So like in my mind, whenever I think of certain things, I hear music in my head of like where I was at that time. So that album played a lot for me when I was younger. But yeah, it's just a sort of a nostalgic cube that plays very fair Magic. It plays kind of like standard level Magic, maybe a little stronger than that because it has like shocks and fetches and such.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, you're looking at, like, if you look at the list, like it's just like old classics, like Champion of the Parish. Like Goblin War Driver is like a stupid card, but it can do real like work. Same thing with like Signal Pest. There's Signal Pest can be super scary in the right deck. Mayor of Averbrook has done a lot of work. Like people ignore it. Then it transforms, and then next thing you know, you're like dealing with something that takes over the game. But then you've got like cards that like didn't really do well, but like are like Master of the Wild Hunt. Wasn't like super constructed playable, but like in cube it takes over the game like almost immediately. Like it's a total removal check.
Oh yeah.
Skin render. I mean, you could even do like you know, like what the kids are doing with Grief nowadays. You can do with Shriekmaw.
Those damn
Shriekmaw
youths
and Undying Evil. Yeah, those kids. Now you can, you know, Shriekmaw, Undying Evil, and you've got Scam. But it's not nearly as good. You're stuck with a 4/3 with Fear.
There you go.
But yeah, this sort of stuff is just like a lot of these cards can be nostalgic for people who were there, or for people who weren't there. It is different Magic. It is different from how they make Magic now. Like it feels different. Like Control is. It's not like old Drago, but it can be like kind of brutal if you haven't really dealt with this kind of like Drago style, because Wizards doesn't really want to make that anymore. You know, they don't particularly like Aetherling used to be in the cube, and then I realized like everyone hates this card, so I took it out. But something like Glen Elendra, like coming in and just blanking any removal that you have. And it's a beater. It's a 2/2 with flying that blanks removal. Like, so good. A lot of cards in here are just like big favorites of mine. And they're the problem with this cube is that because I have to keep it to a certain time frame, there are just power outliers.
Yeah.
But I don't want to get rid of them. Like Batterskull is a power outlier. There are ways in the cube to get rid of it. They're not incredible, but it hasn't gotten to a level where every game anyone who drafts Batterskull goes like positive every time.
Yeah.
Sometimes it just doesn't work out. Like, because it's so fair magic, like the only way to tutor for it is if you get lucky and you get Stoneforge Mystic and then get Batterskull, which those are cards people won't pass if you're playing with smart people. So it's exceedingly difficult to get them both together. But yeah, it's if you were around that time, you will love like flashing in a Restoration Angel. I really miss killing my opponent by getting rid of their blocker with Flicker Wisp.
Dude,
and then getting in for the kill.
I mean,
that feels great.
I know about this cube. I've never drafted it, but like I'm so excited by the fact that there's a plated Geopede and a Step Lynx in here.
Yeah,
and
they're sweet.
Yeah.
I think they're awesome. Like you can
it's sweet.
Role play being Brian Kibler and slam the Thundermaw Hellkite.
There
and
you
just
go.
like go,
You got
it's
Sun
sweet.
Titan
like,
in here. Sun Titan's great.
Oh, lots of old classics. I had to cut. I used to have the entire Titan cycle, but then they're all like Grave Titan and Inferno Titan are insane cards in Cube. They're just nuts.
Yeah.
So I had
you
to
got
cut
Prime Time in here though. You keep the Prime
great.
Time.
Yeah. Yeah, Prime time at the end of the day is just a 6/6 for 6 with trample, and the worst it can do for lands, it's it's not going to get Valakut because that's just so hard to do in Cube.
Yeah.
At least for me. But it can get like Kessig Wolf Run and Inkmoth Nexus, which could be cool.
Yeah.
Who knows, So I've seen people have a lot of fun with this cube, especially people who were around at that time. Newer players I've seen are kind of afraid of drafting it because it is just like cards they don't know. Like I'd have to say my favorite card in the cube, and I've said this pretty much every time we draft it, is Skin Render. Like Skin Render is like the perfect like poster boy for this cube. It is Chupacabra before Chupacabra. It is not quite as good, but it is as good in this cube. It is really good. If you draft Birthing Pod, you better pray you get a Skin Render because it makes the deck work completely.
That's awesome. So other than the duplicates
so-
in the lands, like do you have any other duplicates in the cube?
Yeah, so there's 3 Delver's Secrets because I just think the card is really only good if you can draw it early. So if you're lucky enough to be able to draft, and you usually will be, like it's like a prisoner's dilemma. Like if everyone drafts Delver of Secrets, it's not as good. If 3 different people do, if one person drafts it, it's pretty good because you just want to be able to draft it early and play that sort of spells deck.
Chat
so
said
it becomes
that
like a relevant threat.
Chat said that Prime Time is also +4/+4 to Geopede. So we got to call that out.
Yeah, that is true. That is pretty sweet. See, there are people way smarter than me who do that.
Well, I think most of
is-
I think the chat probably skews towards my age, which is like mid 30s. So this is like peak college Magic for me.
Yes. I've also doubled up on copies of Oust and Journey to Nowhere just to give white some better removal, like a little better priced than just like hoping you get like a Oblivion Ring. Banishing Light. So it that just came from a lot of testing of where I wanted sort of good removal to be and how much I wanted it to cost. Like I really try to get stuff like that can kill almost anything, sort of like Vindicate in the 3 or more mana range, and I usually want it to be like double cost, like costing 2 different colors. So like Vindicate or Putrefy or Maelstrom Pulse, Dreadbore. Like Dreadbore is just a creature or a Planeswalker. There's not that many Planeswalkers, so it's not incredible. It's also sorcery speed, but like that's where I want it to be. And then otherwise, if you've got like, you're gonna have like a more narrow removal with something like Smother or Go for the Throat or Doomblade that are good and they're costed very well, but they are just a little more narrow and they're a little easier to cast. So,
and then for wraths, you just have the Verdict and the Day of Judgment.
Verdict, Day of Judgment. I also have Anger of the Gods, Blasphemous Act, and Damnation.
I see.
Yeah, so like there's enough sweepers that if a control player was to get at least like 1 or 2 of them. There's also some cheeky combos in here with Blasphemous Act and where is he? Boros Reckoner.
So there you go.
Yeah. So there's like cute little things you can do. There are, this cube is, I'm kind of slowed down on updating it. It's
Mhm.
kind of at a place where I really like it. The one card that has just been on like stuck in my craw that I really want to cut, but I don't know if I can, is Goblin Rabble Master. It's
Army
so
in a
good, and
can. Army in a
it's
can.
Army in a can. But if you look at it versus every other 3-drop in red, it is just by far the best card in like. It's
I
probably
mean,
better than most of the cards in red. So, but it's so
you got some
cool.
heat in
Like
red
it's
for yeah, yeah. I
yeah.
mean, Thundermaw's got to be a beating in this format.
Yeah, Thundermaw is very good, especially like when the player who plays Thundermaw, when the player who's playing Lingering Souls learns that it's like totally worthless
Yeah.
against a 5-drop Thundermaw, like it's so awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we had Gavin Verhey over at the house, and he drafted this cube, and he signed one of the first card that he said he designed for Magic when he first started working for them, which was Ultimate Price.
All
Which was
right.
pretty neat. And he ended up playing like a red-green sort of like with just all these like really aggressive red-green cards. What is that Planeswalker in Rule? Domri Raid, played Domri Raid. Tell about how he used to have sort of arguments about Domri Raid and how it should be able to exile the top card of your library or get rid of it, and that the +1 always sort of stuck in his craw. Um, but yeah, this cube, for different people means different things. But for me, it's like it's just when I started playing and I started playing standard. Like my first standard deck was 4 times Champion of the Parish, 4 times like Gather of Townsfolk, like humans. Like it was just like budget, whatever I can get my hands on. I couldn't get, I only had 2 copies of Thalia, Garden of Thraben, because I couldn't afford more of them. Yeah, it's just like when you were young and you just like were just putting cards together and showing up at FNM and going like, oh, like 2-1 or whatever, and just
Yeah.
having a good time. Um, and this is also another big thing about this cube is that I filled it with like tons. So if you scroll over all the cards,
Mhm.
it should be pretty true as to what they are in paper. I try to get as many like promotional cards
Yeah.
or sort of special versions of cards as I can. Some of my favorite ones are probably the Core Skyfisher. It is like an old PAX Boston promo that just says www.magicthegathering.com on the bottom.
That's
Um,
awesome.
yeah, it's really, really cool. Like, I love these old promotional cards. I love the art. Some of them are people hate. Like, there's the infamous Ugly Mold Drifter from F&M.
Oh, I know
But I
that
really
card.
love the old.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think that card is
the
ugly.
old.
What?
People hate
People
this
do hate
this
this
art.
Mold
They like.
Drifter.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
this art
I
is
love this art.
unpopular. Yeah. The old F&M like block letters are so sweet to me. Like they're so awesome. I'm big on sort of just old promos that you can't get anymore or like from like programs that Wizards doesn't do anymore.
Yeah.
So I love doing that. That's I think adds a lot of like color and a lot of like sort of special stuff because for me promos like one of the first promos I ever got was the Sun Titan, July 2010 like pre-release
Yeah.
promo. And I have it again, and it's like I think it's so cool. But when you're like a kid, and you're just like when you're in high school, and you're just like, oh man, like how do I get more of these? Like these are so cool. I want 4 of them, you know. I think that stuff's super sweet. I think it's such a beautiful part of Magic. Like I think promotional cards are really, really awesome. Like when they're from comic books or any other like if you get them online through like a redeem program. I think
Yeah.
that stuff's super, super neat. It sort of adds to the analog nature of this game. Like
For
that
sure.
you can just like search for this thing that only came out. You had to be in this part of the country to get this version of the card. I think that stuff's super sweet.
That is.
But yeah, that's Twilight.
So how long have you been working on it? When did you actually build it?
Just over like a year. Like pretty
Okay.
much like last year when I joined the Cube community here in Philly, I was like I want to build one. I had like come back from like a 10-year break essentially.
Mm-hmm.
I stopped playing Magic after Journey into Nyx.
Okay.
Which was a great place to stop because that like set was not good. And then that's when I moved to Philly and I sold all my cards. I didn't have any like money or anything, so I just kind of like was working as a dishwasher when I got here. And then 10 years later, I'm like making better money, and I decided my wife really like was like, you should get back into Magic. It really made you happy. So I got back into Commander. I didn't like it, and then I met some of the people here in Philly, like Parker. Shout out Parker. Shout out Roja, who were like
Yeah. Shout out
yeah.
Roja for sure.
Yeah, who did like all of the work of getting like cube meetups off the ground here in Philly. Who did a
Yeah.
ton of work. getting that
No,
stuff off. At least
Parker
from
did. Parker
coming
did a
in, like
lot.
they would fire with
Yeah.
a ton of just showing up and firing with like 4 people or 2 people, you know.
Yeah.
So I met them, and then I convinced them to move the cube night to one of the nights where I was off work.
Nice.
So I was able to cut more, and I was like, I want to build a cube, and I just kind of I went with the basic theme of like cards I like, cards that I remember, and I put some new cards in there. And the first draft did not go well because I put Fourth Aerolingus in a cube with like Doom Traveler, so like it just didn't work. It was like it's like a famous train wreck. But like then I'm big on like just throw an idea out there and then you hone it and then you like tighten it and your idea kind of forms as you work on it. And it ended up turning into just straight up like my favorite cards from when I played, plus like some newer stuff like Nettle Cyst is in here, and I really enjoy for Mirrodin, which is like new, but it's such a like a cool callback to like Living Weapon that I think I wish I had these cards when I was a kid, and they play so well in the cube. Like Barb Batterfist is such a sweet card in the cube,
Yeah.
and so is Glimmer Lens. Like Glimmer Lens is probably pretty powerful, but like it plays super well. Like it just plays well with the creature stuff. It helps support like creature decks. It makes it so that playing an artifact equipment is not super painful. Like you're getting a dude with it, which is great.
Yeah.
I really really love that. I love getting like the what they're doing with equipments now of just giving you a dude with it is great. Like just give me a guy. Don't make me pay like 4 mana to get this effect. Let me pay 2. You know.
Yeah. No, I definitely think it streamlines it for the player for sure. It like makes it more easily digestible than like the equipment and equip, and it's just like way more streamlined in the game. So, all right. So, talked about your cubes. I want to talk more about. I want to talk a little bit more about the event. So, you know, I know that we did Steel City last year. We got this upcoming event in Philly. Like, how first of all, how many tickets are left? Do we know? We have a rough idea.
Yeah, we've got space. The thing about the nice thing that has been we have a lot of space at Red Caps, and so I think we've sold just about 90 tickets right now, and our cap is at the absolute maximum, like 128, I want to say,
Okay.
in terms of just physical space. So last year we had a little bit of an issue with that because we hit the cap really, really fast, and then we had to scramble to find more space, basically. So yeah, we've sold. Let me check here.
The two building setup at the Steel City Cube was fine. It worked.
It was fine. It worked.
It worked.
It was not ideal. We fortunately are gonna have everybody in the same room this time, which is gonna take a huge load off of me and Bones.
Yeah.
Shout out to Bones. Without Bones, none of these events would happen
Big
either.
shout out to Bones.
But yeah, we've got plenty of seats left. So the event is already bigger than Steel City was at 90 seats, and we should be able to accommodate at least another 30 people ish.
That rules. So what were, as an organizer, like, if there's stuff you could share, I don't know, but like what were some of the things that you learned doing the Pittsburgh event that you were like, okay, like these are things that like I got to get ahead of next time?
A lot of the stuff that I learned from the Pittsburgh event was kind of things that I changed from the events that I'd been to beforehand that worked out well, which was really reassuring. Like the new open play system, the change in the play mats, that kind of stuff. The decision to put a cube in the prize support was also really well received. Last year we gave away a proxy vintage cube to the champion, and this year we're giving away a copy of May's Fey Cube, which you might have heard of if you are a fan of the Ubercube podcast. And so that's really cool that we're able to do a cube that's made of authentic Magic cards this time around. That's really exciting.
Yeah.
It gave us some budget constraints, of course, but that cube is designed to be a little bit more affordable, so we were able to just make a copy of it, and we're just gonna put it in the event. You can draft it if you want, and then the winner is gonna take it home. So that's really cool.
That's sick.
And Yeah, so I learned that that worked really well. I learned that the open play was really cool. I learned that I definitely need to have everybody in one room this time around, so we were able to figure that out.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think the biggest thing I learned is that I really love running these events and that I have pretty much just as much fun, if not more, running an event like this as compared to playing in it.
Hmm.
And so I'm super excited to continue doing this kind of thing.
That's good. That's good. So any ideas about the next one? Going back to Pittsburgh, still up in the air, doing something completely different, like
Yeah, we're definitely shooting for another Pittsburgh event, hopefully this summer. I'm talking to a couple venues pretty much right now, just as a sneak peek.
nice.
Hoping to be able to announce that before Philly if we're lucky, if I can get something nailed down.
All right.
Like hopefully I can sort of reveal it at the event. Although you'll get the preview right here, I suppose. But yeah, if I have something nailed down by next weekend, then that would be cool. But shooting
Yeah.
for probably roughly the same timing in Pittsburgh again.
Okay. Fantastic. What are you most excited for about the event, Juan? Other than being the king of the
Um,
city for a day.
no, I think just getting to meet more people. Like I met a ton of really great people out at Steel City Cube. Getting to meet people who are just like better at Magic than me, which I think is like great when you don't feel like you're all that great at it. Like it's good to play against people who are better than you, and it's great to like talk to people who just talk about the game in like ways that you don't necessarily think about. And just to watch them, just to see how they draft and like lose to them, or like just like see how they won, see their decks. Like it, I feel like it makes me a better Magic player, and it makes me like really love the community a lot more. There's so many people out there who are really, really great at this game. Not saying that if you're not good at this game, like don't come. You come if you're not good too, because it's nice to meet you too. It's great. Just saying, like for me, I love meeting people who are like a lot better at the game than I
Yeah, I was.
am, or at least like have stories to tell about it.
Yeah. Because I'm not good at the game, but I love Cube. I got a lot of reps in me. I've played a lot of games of
Yeah,
Magic. You know, I can
yeah,
pull a
yeah.
rabbit out of a hat every once in a while, but sometimes I look at people like, I talk to like Ryan Sachs or like, yeah, like somebody like that. Like, you know, I'm like, I don't know. He showed me a deck of cards, like this deck is so powerful, and I'm like, I wouldn't even know if it's a keepable hand, let alone like
Yeah.
what are you trying to
Yeah.
do? What are these cards? Like
Yeah.
I remember the first time I had somebody explain to me how Bomberman worked, and like they had to explain it to me like 7 times. And I'm like, and I'm just getting beat by this in Cube, and I'm like, I don't think there's anything I can do. What's happening? And it's like, no, it's over. And I'm like, fuck, all right, like I don't. And I see the Auroch Salvagers, I see the LED. I still don't really know how it works, but like I know I know that people can beat me with it. So yeah, no, I think look, I encourage people to come check out the event. I think it's going to be I think it's going to be a blast. I'm so excited that it's at Red Caps, that it's in West Philly, and that I'm going to get to hang out with like not only all the local friends, but like a lot of the different people coming in from all over, and yeah, it should be a fantastic time. So I don't know, like you know, I think we kind of got an interview in here. I don't know if you guys have some extra time. Would you want to jump on and like do a draft together and just like argue about card picks for a little bit, and then we can call it a night?
Yeah, sure. I don't even know what's up on Moto or Arena right now, but
I don't know
um,
either. Let's see here, and let me see if I can figure out a way to.
Um, I will let you guys do that. So, and my cat threw up, so I gotta finish
Oh
cleaning that
God.
up.
Okay.
He's fine. Yeah, he had a hairball, so he's like, I cleaned it up a little bit, but I want to sanitize.
No, that
okay.
totally makes sense.
But
That totally makes sense. All right,
no
Juan.
worries. But hey,
Well,
thanks for having me on, man.
yeah. No, thank you so much, dude. I appreciate it. I can't wait to see you next weekend. And I'm definitely gonna sign up for the Twilight Cube.
Yeah, just Twilight's fine. I was gonna change the name.
Don't
but,
change the name. I
put it
just
up
need to
a vote.
memorize it.
No, I put it up to a vote in the Cube Discord, in the Philly Cube Discord, and it got 100% no change. Do not change the Cube. And people were celebrating the win in democracy.
Fair enough.
And I had a good name otherwise. I had a good second name, but people did not go for it. They wanted me to keep the stupid name that I kind of regret now. But yeah, all right. Take care, guys. Great talking to you.
I'll see you.
That love before. I lost that love before. I lost that love before.